Hello, I'm Tom Bailey, and in today's episode, I'll be getting to know Reem Borrows, who is a human performance specialist and founder of Dreem Coaching and Consulting. So Reem, hello, and a very warm welcome to today's episode.
Oh, hello. It's so lovely to be here too.
Thanks
Thank
so
you
much.
for having me on.
Absolutely. And for those people that don't know, whereabouts in the world are you right now?
In sunny Sydney, Australia.
Lovely.
A
Absolutely
beautiful
love
part of the
it.
world.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And thanks for sharing that. And I just want to share a little bit more about you before we do get started. So Reem worked in the pharmaceutical industry and as a senior leader or in senior leadership roles for over 20 years before launching her own business with Dreem Coaching and Consulting. Now, Reem wholeheartedly believes that each and every one of us has unlimited potential with the opportunity to elevate the quality of our lives and achieve all that we desire through Dreem's holistic health, head and heart leadership model. The title for today's episode is How to Avoid the Ivory Tower Effect and Become the True Leader You Are. And Reem's going to show us how to do that in just 7 minutes. So question number 1 today is, who are your ideal clients?
So my ideal clients are executives, sales leaders, business owners, aspiring leaders, and really the most important part about it is anyone who knows that there's more.
Yes.
And anyone that knows that there's always better ways of doing things. So it's a continuous cycle. So you can never reach that, the glass ceiling or whatever you call it.
Yeah, I got it completely. So when these people who have, they're aspiring leaders, they've got unlimited potential, and what do you say is typically the biggest challenge that they face?
So look, we'll go to the ones who are already in great leadership roles. Either they're entrepreneurs or they've got their own businesses or they work for large global organizations, and it gets really lonely at the top.
Yeah,
it really does. And what happens is that a lot of people can become successful. So even for yourself, you think about all the successes you've had in your life, and then what happens, we reach a point where you have to change, because in order to get more and more, there's a necessity to change, and it becomes a self-leadership challenge. And I love this, it's one sentence only. What got you here may not get you there.
Yes.
And so I find that, especially in leadership roles, because it gets so lonely at the top, you need someone who can help you to get to that next level.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. And I guess that loneliness is so important. And what would you say is the impact that loneliness can have on either the leader or the business that they work in?
Well, I mean, the mind's a very, very interesting thing. It doesn't matter how successful you are. We've always got that 60 to 90,000 thoughts per day. Of those 60 to 90,000 thoughts per day, 95% of them are repeated. And then if you're not careful, 80% of them can be negative. So it doesn't matter where you are in your career. If you're not consciously aware of the sort of thoughts that you're having, it can start having a negative impact on you. And if you're in a lonely space, it can start having a negative impact on you in terms of the pressures that we're under, what the company needs of you, what your own business needs of you, what your family needs of you. And you start to allow that to control you rather than going deep within and doing the work on yourself to say, well, what is my goal? What do I actually want? So we start to, and again, it doesn't matter who it is. No one is immune to this. If you're not consciously aware of it, or if you're not working with someone who can make you consciously aware of it, you can start to spiral downwards. And you stop seeing things the way that you could be seeing them from a potential perspective, and you start only seeing problems.
And that really highlights the importance of mindset, like you said, self-leadership, and it's so important to keep that continuous success going forward.
Absolutely, mindset's everything. And the second you start to believe that you've gotten there, it's all over, Red Rover.
Yeah, of course. And anybody that is listening to this thinking, I get it, I'm in a leadership role, I'm starting to feel these, feelings of loneliness. What's that one piece of advice that you might give them to help them really move forward and solve this problem?
Look, anywhere to start. So any piece of advice I ever give is always start from the end in mind.
Yeah.
It's what do you really, really want, and build that vision. We spend far too much time in problems. And as you know, the more you stay in a problem, the more you create the problem. So the problem just gets bigger and bigger. So start from the end in mind. It's like project management 101. And then work backwards, breaking everything down to the lowest common denominator, and then you start looking at the tactical priorities. But before you go to the end, if you don't do the end in mind, how do you know what you're going to want to achieve? So we start to create, so you don't want to be creating things that are not necessary, if that makes sense.
It makes complete sense. It's having that North Star that's always guiding you towards that destination, and it helps you move past those, I guess, obstacles that inevitably come up along the way.
And it's amazing how many times we actually have to be reminded this. And every single instance I see, I mean, people get used to me to go, I know exactly what you're going to ask me. I said, great, then you're self-leading now, because it's what do you want? You'll never, ever get into your car and say to Siri or the navman, take me west. Because if you say that, you know where you're going, don't you? You're just going to keep going west for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
You actually have to be really, really focused and clear on exactly what it is that you want.
I love that. Great advice and a great metaphor as well from the sat nav. So what is one or a number of valuable resources that you can share with people today to help them develop in this particular space?
Okay, in terms of the resources, I mean, you can go to dreem.com.au on my website. There's things that you can download, workbooks that you can download. There's a lot of resources there. In a couple of weeks' time, also you'll get notification for a new podcast that I'm. It's a leaders leading leaders podcast, and then also there's a Facebook group, closed Facebook group called Dream Beyond Borders. And it's all about the mindset growth, where you'll really get a lot of free resources, a lot of thought process on how to start thinking, because dream beyond borders, because we just limit ourselves. We put so many invisible borders in our mind that stop us from really achieving what it is that we want to achieve.
I love that. And I love that thought of dreaming beyond our borders. So yeah, anybody that wants to find out more, go to dreem.com.au and you can find all those resources there. And what I'll do is I'll put a link to that in the show notes as well, so you can just click on that and dive right in.
Thank you.
So clearly a long career in leadership and now in entrepreneurship. So over that time, what would you say is one of your greatest either learnings or mistakes or failures that you've made, and what did you learn from it?
I love that question. I can't even begin to tell you how many mistakes I've made. I always hurt just a little bit, right? I'm going to give you one example, but they have been, I have had that many failures in my life. But the one thing I do know about these failures is that they've catapulted me to the next biggest thing. And I'm so grateful for them. So one of my biggest failures to begin with, and this was something I really wanted to, was my first promotion into sales leadership. And I put my heart and soul into it. I thought I was definitely the person to be. I couldn't have done anything more. And I'd reached the final stage interview, 5-stage interview, and there was only one other candidate. And unfortunately at the time, well, not unfortunately, but at the time I thought it was unfortunately, he got the role. And here's the best part, you're going to love this. He happened to be my partner as well at the time. So that was really interesting. But one of the things I realized from that point is that it's not the actual thing that happens to you, not the activity itself that's important. It's how do you respond to it or react to it that's important. Because the way that I ended up responding to it was so beneficial to me. I didn't realize it at the time. There were tears, private tears, but I went back into the workplace and I said, okay, back into it. I'm just going to keep doing the best job I possibly can. And 6 months later, I was given a promotion that I hadn't even dreamt about, and that catapulted my career like there was no tomorrow. It was amazing, and that keeps happening time and time and time again throughout my entire life. So now every time there's something that I fail at, I go, there must be something fantastic coming.
Yeah, absolutely. That role was never meant for you, the first one. So yeah, it allowed you to then have the opportunity to go to the second one, and that's another great mindset to have.
It was the best role I could have ever have dreamt of.
Yeah, perfect. All worked out for a good reason. And the last question I've got for you today is, what is the one question that I should have asked you today that will also bring some great value to our audience?
Well, you could, that's a really good question, actually. There's about so many, but I guess you could ask me, why did I start Dreem Coaching and Consulting? I had such a successful career. And, when you work for large global organizations, the opportunities are plentiful. And when you reach a certain point, you can do so much more. So maybe that's a good question to be asking me.
I'd love to find out why you did that.
After I started my self-exploration and sort of goal-setting journey at tender age of 27 for me, because I realized after university, and I realized that I had a lot of potential, but I wasn't doing anything. Everything that I was doing so much and achieving nothing. And I was going, this is not working. So clearly I need to find a different way.
Yeah.
And I started setting goals, and I started experimenting, and I got myself a coach, and I did all this stuff. And over the years, my passion has always been working with people and helping people grow. And I would do that with large teams and organizations until I got to a point where I thought, I want to share as much of this with as many people as possible in as many countries as possible, because, you can actually design your life in exactly the way you want it, if you choose.
Yeah.
Okay, you just need to know what are the resources, who can help me, and what is it that I really, really want. And so I quit my job and I started Dreem Coaching and Consulting, and the rest is history, as they say.
And never look back. Fantastic. I love that. It's so exciting, and also, aspirational for other people looking to make that step into entrepreneurship as well.
Absolutely.
So, Reem, thank you again so much for your time today and for sharing such great value with our audience.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was such a pleasure.